And welcome back to another episode of Inboxing, the podcast that talks all about email marketing. And today we have a great guest, a good friend of mine. We did a great series called 30 Days to Better Email. That's available at hillberg.com/30 days. And he wrote all about deliverability because he's actually started a company that specializes in that email verification. And that's what we're going to talk a little about today. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone watching. If anyone is in the United States watching, that is. But for the rest of the world, it's Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning. So just enjoy. And without any further ado, here is Radek Kaczynski.
Hey, hello. How are you?
I'm great. Thank God. How did I do with that?
I'm sorry.
With your name, I mean, like Kaczynski is not, like
Wow,
easy.
you almost nailed it. Yeah.
Almost nailed it. Okay, yeah, it's that CZ, like sound.
Yeah, it's a weird Polish sound. I know.
Yeah, and I have a good friend, Scotchless, so it helps like having knowing people with those kinds of names, Shafransky, a few people I could think of, and probably hockey players have helped.
Yeah. Indeed.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. All right, so we'll jump right
Thank you
into
for having me.
things. Oh, for sure. It's great to have you, and I'm looking forward to this. All right, so tell us a little about yourself and how you got started in the email industry.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I've been a geek since I've been a small kid. So I grew up in the valley in the mountains in Poland, and always well, when someone asks me who do you want to be when you become an adult, I was immediately saying software engineer. My friends were telling I want to be a superhero, a fireman, a policeman, and I want to be a software engineer. Kind of geeky. And at the same time, I kind of loved connecting with people and being connected. So I really remember this day when I was, I think, like 13, and I went to the computer store, and I had some saved cash, and I was up to make a decision whether I want to buy a 3D graphic card or modem. So I bought a modem, and then that very store, I kind of created my first email address. Of course, it was embarrassing address. Probably I abandoned it like few years after, but it was this moment when I got connected to kind of internets. And I still remember the sound of the modem, on the phone. It was pretty sweet. And well, so that was my first kind of connection with email. But probably you're not asking about that. Later on, well, I've been working with pretty cool companies. But to be like really connected with email, it all started when I started Bouncer, which kind of sounds silly, and kind of it was kind of naive of mine, get into email space not knowing much about it. But I've been like super fortunate about the fact that surrounded by great experts. The email community, email geeks, are so welcoming and so open community. So even a totally newbie starting at email verification company could learn from the best ones. So that was pretty sweet, pretty awesome. Oh, hello. I'm not sure if you're not muted.
It's funny. I almost never mute myself, but I hate when I interrupt people. so, so, anyways, I was saying, and it takes us exactly the next question. Just like, what did you see that inspired you to build Bouncer, an email verification company? Like you said, you could have done anything. What's that? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, let me do email verification.
Well, yeah. Probably the backstory is kind of odd, and maybe not like really common in the email verification space. Because back then I've been living and working in the US, and for a pretty sweet company, love it, for Volvo Group. and I was responsible for, especially for Mack trucks, dealerships, communications. All the software. I've been responsible managing like a whole portfolio of the aftermarket solutions for North and South America, and we had a kind of a big issue with the continuity of communication. So when a driver was coming to the dealership and have been passing the contact details over the counter, there have been so many typos. And of course, it was also due to the fact that it's like a super multicultural community of the drivers in the US. So different accents, different and of course, there's always a chance of getting a typo in the email address when someone is over the phone or over the counter. So we had like a huge issue with the master data management. We've been our dealers were typing in the addresses, and then the whole communication about the service was interrupted. Then all the post service situations like surveying or marketing, upselling new features, new services was kind of interrupted because the continuity of the communication was disturbed. So I figured, hey, well, there has to be something we could do about it. So I did some research and found that yes, well, there are some competitors. There's a technology that we could utilize in order to solve this issue. Later on, I kind of learned that it's not only about capturing the correct email addresses and verification in real time to make sure that you're capturing the correct ones, but it's also about list hygiene and list verification. After the time that I learned about all the statistical aspects that come into play, etc. But I wanted, actually, when I was starting Bouncer, I wanted to solve the issue of the interrupted communication when the email address is invalid at the moment of entry. And when I found that, well, okay, there's something we could do about it, I basically, like, during one day decided, okay, I'm quitting my corporate job and moving back to Europe, because here I've got much better actually environment and much better surrounding community that was enabling me to do that. We built a team. Took some European Union funds for the innovation, for the R&D projects, and started Bouncer.
That's great. So really, like when you said Bouncer, you're really just trying to do it like on the fly solution. Like put in an email address. Nope, that's not an email address. Try again.
Yeah. Well. And to go further, this is deliverable email address, or there are some risk factors that come into play with that particular email address, so that people could make decisions when they get connected, right? And so that they can bring the value to each other.
For sure, I remember when retailers started, giving you, like a keypad to put in your email address instead of asking you what your email address was. Yeah. And then you were supposed to get an email to get like 10% off. So you wanted to get that email, so you made sure to give them the right email address. So that was how they were getting around that problem.
So many use cases here, on the mobile, fat finger piece is also playing, creating some issues, of course. But the funny thing is that actually, like in our business, this is not the most important use case for business wise, and for we probably would never be sustainable business if we would just focus on that piece.
For sure. I mean,
it's interesting. I learned it hard way.
Yeah, you find it's so interesting how often that happens though in business in general. Like you think you're coming to solve one problem, but then it turns out you're really doing something completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So maybe take us a little bit of under the hood. So how exactly does Bouncer, really any of these tools, like, is it historical data? Is it like, how do they test? They're not actually sending emails to everybody. So how do you guys know who's a valid email, what's not a valid email, and
well, it depends. There are different paradigms, and there are different different types of actually email verification solutions that are connecting utilizing different technology. But if it comes to Bouncer itself, we kind of decided that we don't want to use the historical data, meaning we want to provide the most accurate information to our customers as it's possible. So that's why we're not utilizing the historical data, even though we already verified like 2 billion email addresses over the last 3-4 years. But we kind of feel that we have to deliver the best precision possible, especially as at one time the email address might be undeliverable, and taking that information with the time being might not be might introduce the false negatives. And also, like when we've been designing Bouncer, that was a cautious decision because we wanted always to be biased against false negatives, which means we don't want you to lose a contact with your customer, with your friend, with your partner because of our mistake. So that's why we are not utilizing the historical data, the historical bounces. What we do is actually, and of course we're not sending the email to the recipients, but what we actually do is we are utilizing the SMTP protocol. So we're starting the first comments of the SMTP protocol to establish the connection with the recipient server, and to negotiate and ask them, hey, do you guys have this kind of email address registered in your database? And the majority of the servers will, without any issue, answer. Some will ask us things like, hey, we don't really know you, we don't really trust you, could you try in a bit, etc., etc. And of course, well, this is not an ideal solution, but we want to be also like eco-friendly. Try to limit our footprint as much as possible, because it's a utilization of someone else's resources, right? So we want to do it as little as possible, establish as little connections as possible, so that the ESPs,
it's not resource intensive.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's why we kind of put a lot of attention into designing our algorithms, into incorporating artificial intelligence, some machine learning, in order to limit the needed amount of connections with the SMTP servers, so that we don't use someone else's resources. We are not increasing the footprint. And in general, the algorithm is like relatively simple. It's just a couple of steps. Of course, you're starting with the syntax, whether the email is a correct email address, and then you're checking the DNS setup, whether the domain is set up, and then you're establishing the connection with the server. The trick happens when you're doing that like hundreds of millions times a month, right? So this is where magic, where actually magic sauce is. So I'm super proud of what our development team did, especially if it comes to backend. This is like super sophisticated piece of software, with really cool technologies inside, like cloud computing, things that Netflix is using, like super pretty sweet techie stuff. I'm like super impressed, and that actually helps us to have that kind of high precision and that kind of high coverage, because ultimately our business is actually managing also our reputation with the ISPs, because it's ultimately it's kind of moving the risks from our customers on us, if it comes to checking which email addresses are correct and which are not, so that they can have a pretty solid sender reputation in the internet.
Okay. All right. So how careful do companies need to be when they're getting leads?
That's a great question. I think that the more and more the times change, and it's like in the old days when the whole internet was starting, actually, it was pretty cool community with a lot of trust towards each other, right? And that's why even in the old days, email verification was not needed at all, because actually there was like even a comment in the SMTP protocol, verify, which would let you just ping a server and check whether the email address exists or not. Or even there was a lookup command that we would ask for a hello email at your company, and the server would return. But unfortunately, there have been so much abuse. Actually, the spam started immediately in the email space, and that's why the ISPs decided to start protecting the good ones in the community.
You're saying in the beginning days, like spammers could actually get email addresses by asking servers, like, does this email address exist? This email address exist? Like, unbelievable.
So that's why those comments have they become obsolete and decommissioned, because there have been so much abuse, and because of those those sneaky guys, we kind of also right now are in a position of a risk. That we can be categorized by the algorithms that, from one hand, are there to protect us, our attention, our time, our resources, and from the other hand, we need to kind of build a trust. So that's why getting the leads into your database, building your database is super important, and you need to make sure that there's an alignment between what you've got to offer and what people do need, so that they don't get irritated with your communication later on, so that they don't mark you as spam or complain or even litigate the fact that you're sending unsolicited emails or offers that are misaligned with what you agreed in the beginnings. So building a list is and getting your leads into your database is you need to put a bit of effort and kind of look at it holistically. From one hand, it's a really good thing to incorporate like email verification to check the invalid, whether there are any invalid email addresses in your, at the moment of entry, because some studies show that 5 to even 10% of the email addresses are invalid at the moment of entry. So it's a solid number of email addresses. So starting with that, but also looking at into things a little bit more holistically, whether when you're building a list, whether you are making sure that your leads are interested with, or there's a high probability that there will be interested in what you've got to offer. And also that later on to deliver on promise. So when you already kind of establish the connection with someone, and you do have like an informal contract that you're going to be delivering them some types of the services, then just to respect that. Because the threats are like, they're big. Like if you do some things wrong, then of course you may end up in the situation when you need to recover from some deliverability
problems
and big issues. And this is not an easy, this is really time and energy and talent consuming thing to recover from the disasters. So it's much better to look at that like in a holistic way, and prevent issues instead of just fix when they occur.
Right. I remember you just mentioned, how you have to respect the contract. Someone opted in for your emails. I remember reading that. Chad White was my last guest. In his book, he talks about that. Like that permission doesn't last forever. Like someone gave you their email address, great. But now you have to respect that and send content that matters to them and not just burn it or send them just their Black Friday campaign once a year.
Totally.
Very, very true. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so this kind of is a similar question. And, if you want to add anything, But how can companies build their list in a positive way?
I think that nowadays,
Just...
email. Well, in general, email, but it's not only about the email. It's kind of regardless of the channel, communication channel. It's when someone leaves you their contact information, whatever contact information it is. This means that you got some trust from them, right? Because it's it means that they trusted you in some way to provide you with some kind of socket to their time, their attention, to their energy. So first of all, you need to make sure that respect that kind of trust, and you need to also I think we need to be delivering a value, like upfront, some value upfront, and this usually helps. And it may be it may be a moment of joy. This also is a value, in some humoristic stuff counts as well. But usually it's to deliver some value or some promise that actually you will deliver a value when they leave the contact information to you. And then when your journey together goes on, you need to indeed revalidate, make sure that you are aligned with what what are the needs of the other human being on the other side, and make sure that you that you are obeying this contract that you both entered in, and it's so delivering the value, respecting, gaining the trust, and also doing that in a pretty cool experience, while building a good experience for the other human being while you are together on this journey, helps a lot.
All right, awesome. All right, so what's your day-to-day like? Running Bouncer.
I sometimes feel like I'm, jack of all trades and a master of none, because it's we're still relatively small team. But what I really love is actually working close to the product. I always been a product guy, really close to the product, IT products. So that's why this is where I feel the best. And especially in the backend aspect. So I love spending time with our developers and brainstorming on algorithms or ways of incorporating new features. But at the same time, I need to be kind of a face of the company, even though we've got much nicer face of our gorilla. But during my journey with Bouncer, I had to learn a lot if it comes to marketing, if it comes to sales. I kind of suck at sales still, but I'm doing some progress, gradually and slowly, probably slower than we need that. But I truly love from time to time work on the user support as well, to be connected with with our customers, with our users. Even though let's be honest, like no one likes email verification. No one is like wakes up in the morning and says, hey, yeah, I'm gonna be working with with my email verification provider. Hopefully it's Bouncer. But there's no much excitement about working with the email verification. But I really enjoy work, being in dialogue, being in contact with our customers. So that's why I do spend some time on a weekly basis at the user support, just to be connected, be close to our customers. And other than that, all sorts of things. And I suck at many of them, but learning.
that's that's what it is at the top. All right, so you mentioned that. Just I had no idea Volvo and Mack trucks, and but I don't know if you want to it's really started there and ended in Bouncer, or are there anything in between there and there?
Yeah, my CV looks boring. It really does. Like during the college days, I joined Volvo Group first in Poland. Then I moved to US. Indeed. In meantime, I was playing around with some PhD in bioengineering. But well, I did finish my studies, but I never kind of defended my thesis there, so I kind of abandoned it and went into business stuff. I abandoned that when I moved to US for a couple of years, and but so it looks pretty boring, but I feel like it was really cool journey. And by the way, Volvo Group is really amazing company, really cool corporation with pretty solid values that were in line with me. So when I find something that I like, I stay there. But I've been like, I started as a software engineer. That was my dream, right? But really quickly, I decided that I want to be work a little bit more with the customers, work a little bit more with the other human beings. So humans, one with the technology, kind of. So I entered in some different roles, like first Scrum Master, team leads roles. Then I think I've been one of the first ones who've been introducing Lean in IT into in Volvo Group. I was doing that kind of as an underdog. More or less, so the whole organization was being agile. Well, it was going with the agile, and I was introducing Lean at the same time. And I really loved like entrepreneurship. So that's why when I was in the US, I had a super fortunate times to work with the business, with the VPs of Mac, of Volvo, to think about different IT ideas. Working with some venture capital company of ours, with the vendors that we had. So it was really fun journey, and it taught me a lot. Like I learned a lot, and that was also one of the reasons why I stayed there for over a decade.
Oh wow!
I
didn't realize it was that.
Yeah. It was over a decade, and it was first of all, because the company had values that were in line with my values. And the other thing was that I was able to learn a lot, and I was kind of taking it as a journey that would kind of make me ready to start something on my own. Of course, you were never ready. And by the way, if I would know what it takes to build a company like Bouncer, probably I would never start it. And at the same time, I'm kind of happy that I didn't know it, because it's been a ride as well.
I'm just wondering, did your dev experience, working as a software engineer in Scrum, and did that help you develop Bouncer? Like they basically do the same kind of stuff.
It did, and big time. Well, probably if you would ask Rafał, so our developer, maybe it did help, but I do know that I was probably stepping too much into his role, because it was just close to my my experience, to my heart. And so it did help to build a product. And well, that's kind of how Bouncer is. Like, we still suck at marketing. Well, we just renewed our website, and it finally it kind of reflects our backend. We're right now working on the front end of the application, because we never had we never been good designers of the of the fancy stuff.
UX.
Of the UX, we've been always focused on like high volume processing, parallel processing aspects and algorithms in the back end. Because it did help with product, with building really solid, probably one of the best on the market products, but it also prevented me from learning as much as I should in the marketing and sales, I think.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, it's not in the cards here, but I did a 10,000 email list. Took, I don't know, 5 minutes. So I'm saying, if I had a million list, would it take a few hours? Like how long? I'm sure that's a big part of the business, is like the time that it takes to verify a big list. Like,
Yeah.
is that something you guys are working on all the time? And, is it is it, that, per 1,000 email it takes a minute? Like, how does it work?
Well, actually, small lists take on average longer than the big lists, and it's mostly because like our average capacity or bandwidth that we are giving to each of our customers is 200,000 emails per hour. So essentially,
I'm going to the back of the line. That's what you're saying.
no. Well, we do have. Well, actually, we're kind of trying to spread the bandwidth as equally as we can, and be fair to all of our customers. And it's not about getting at the back of the line. It's mostly because, like, well, we do have this Windows progress bar syndrome. And it's mostly because, well, actually, like 10,000 emails will be verified in 3-4 minutes, probably, maybe 5. But then there's also always a time for waiting for the last results, like retries or gray listing, handling. When a server tells us, "Hey guys, try again in 5 minutes," we just need to wait 5 minutes to give you the most accurate results. So that's why the waiting time for the last pieces, last results is there, and it's like configured to be 3-5 minutes. Of course, you can pause and you can get the results before, but in general, the shorter lists on average take longer. But our main capacity is per customer 200,000 emails per hour, and so it means like million would take 5 hours or so. But we do have a really scalable solution. So if you would come to us and say, "Hey, I need 1 million, really fast," then I believe we can give you more bandwidth, boost your priority for some limited time, and deliver you the results much faster than normally.
Okay, we have a fan comment question. Chris Byrne, our Irish friend,
Hey,
doesn't live in Ireland as far as I know, but yeah, basically he has a question for you, and I think he's watching. Are there GDPR concerns with using email verification tools? For example, if you're using a US-based verify service, can they properly comply with Article 17, right to be forgotten?
It's a really good question. Well, we're I may be biased while answering this question, because we are a European company, right? We are fully hosted in Europe. Our data centers are in Europe only, and well, a couple of years ago, probably, when we had a safe harbor and privacy shield in place, and it was kind of still respected by European Union, I'd say, hey, if folks do have data centers in Europe, then there's no transfer of the data. But actually, all the gentleman named Austrian gentleman of the name Schrem, he's been for years questioning some aspects, especially if it comes to the US government access to the data, and their right to ask any US based company to give the data to US government. And actually, they do have, like in the US, they do have that kind of right. So it makes for our colleagues from US a little bit more complex situation. And this is kind of our advantage, that we are a European-based company, and we are fully, legally established in European Union only. Our colleagues from email verification from US, they've got bigger problems with that right now, because indeed, of course, we're not saying, no one says that that they would want to use the European citizens' data in any way, and no one in the industry does that. Actually, no one from the best 20 solutions. But it's about the U.S. government's right to ask for some of the data if needed. The data privacy is becoming more and more important. We've been also kind of in a fortunate position when we've been starting Bouncer. The GDPR was a big thing then, so we kind of just made we were fortunate to be able to make decisions like on a design phase. So we made a GDPR compliance by design, and in general data privacy, data security aspects by design, because well, we kind of we've been able, we didn't have any technical depth, any technical solutions like some of our competitors did. They need to reshape their architecture, and we could just design it in a way that it will be like compliant with more and more strict privacy rules.
Okay.
So yeah, a really big subject, really important subject. And as I said, I suck at marketing and sales. Probably we should be positioning ourselves much better in this space. Thanks, Chris, for reminding me that.
That's a great point. Yeah, is that why you're not using any historical data? Is it's a compliance thing?
Yeah,
Ah,
we
okay.
actually we even go a step farther. Like we even in our logs, in application logs. Well, first of all, we give our customers all the ways to delete their data at any time they want. Like data will be automatically deleted if our customers forget to delete it. It will be deleted after 60 days. But we give the API endpoints, we give the ability in the application to delete completely data. But of course, one might ask a question, okay, and what about the logs, right? Because you probably guys do have logs from the SMTP communication or internal logs, etc. So we kind of designed a system in a way that whenever it sees that there's an email address that will be stored in our database or in our logs, and it anonymizes it immediatally with the algorithms that you cannot decrypt. It's hashing algorithms.
Right. Yeah, I understand. It's not an email address anymore. It's just a hash code you're looking up.
Yeah. So when our customer will come and say, "Hey, why did you guys return me this particular result for this particular email address?" We will hash that email address with the same algorithm, and we will and we will be able to compare. But from our logs or from our database, there's no way to take the real email addresses back. Well, no one from our team will have an access, I'm not saying that AWS would be looking at our database, but no one actually has the physical possibility to check the email address. So we've been kind of, it's been a big thing for us since day one.
All right, yeah, make that a big scream it.
Probably, yeah, probably you should.
All right. All right. So yeah, what the other, you're talking about, verification. Everything verification obviously ties into deliverability. So do you have like 5 tips about deliverability you can give us?
Well, actually, I've got one that probably I've when I was learning from the best ones, I've been looking at various aspects, and as much as I'm like a quick learner, I'm also a quick forgetter. So if I would have to remember 5 things, it would be too difficult for me. So unless I would just tattoo it on my forearm, that would be odd. Like tattoo 5 deliverability tips on your forearm.
Yeah, there are some people like that. We can ask an email geeks chat. Does anyone have any email tattoos? We'd love to see it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But so I came up with this thing that helps me actually to memorize the other stuff. So and I know it may sound a little bit pompous or a little bit odd, but I really believe that email deliverability is a result of love and respect. So it's love towards human being, their time and attention, etc., and respect towards their energy and their resources, but also your resources and your time and energy. So you're not abusing someone else's infrastructure, and you're not putting too much pressure on your infrastructure, which means you're not sending like in peaks, in high volumes just before the Black Friday, right? You're silent to the whole world for the whole year, and then you suddenly blast a Black Friday deal. So that's one thing. The other thing is have a respect towards your infrastructure, like do all the SPF, DKIM, DMARC setup, like authenticate, so that no one else can impersonate you, so that the others know that no one else can impersonate you, so they can trust it's you. So this is kind of and also a derivative of result of love and respect, right? The other thing is love towards someone else's time and energy and focus. So don't send the messages that are not aligned with what you promised or what they want to hear from you. But it's also respect towards in a form you're sending it. So make it easy to read. Make it easy to read for the humans and for the machines that are protecting them, right? So maybe not so much spammy words inside, or just one picture, big picture in the message, because it just immediately gonna be identified as a spam. And doing like, there's also an aspect of like being predictable, and this again comes to the to the topic right now. Just before, in the holiday seasons, we're sending a little bit more messages than usually, and we're shouting out what kind of deals we have to the public. But if you're not doing that before, if you're not first of all, there's going to be a surprise on the other hand, because hey, you've been silent, and suddenly out of the blue you're telling someone that you've got something to offer. So it just means that you're not connected with the others like on a normal basis. And on the other hand, the spam filters immediately may immediately identify you as a spammer, especially if you're not authenticated correctly. Then they can feel like someone just hacked your account and is just blasting tons of emails immediately. So to sum up, email verification, really believe that it's a result of love and respect. However it sounds, I know, but I truly believe it does.
All right. All right. So what are the top things to look out for? What are the big mistakes people are making in deliverability?
I think rush and going for shortcuts is it's never a friend of ours. Of course, it may show that there is a probability you will get some immediate value. You can hack some things, growth hack some things, but long term it never pays off. There's too much cost and time that you need to spend on recovering from those mistakes. So doing things in rush, going for shortcuts, purchasing the the databases of the contacts of people who would never be interested in what you've got to offer. Those things are those are some shortcuts that usually don't play really well for us. And it comes up to to love and respect towards each other.
All right. And so why aren't ESPs, offering either, I wrote on the fly, but even like when you upload a list, like why isn't it just, like it's protecting themselves, isn't it?
It is. And it's I think it depends. And the industry also changes. By the way, when we started when we started Bouncer, we kind of, because we are a backend people, we were really hoping that we're going to be just delivering email verification as a backend, as a service to the ESPs actually. And we so that's why also our app maybe is not the most designish one, because we wanted to deliver email verification to the ESPs. And it wasn't only because it sounded like a good idea from the business perspective, but it was because we really believe that an ordinary human being, they don't need to know that there's a bouncer, that they don't need to know that the email verification is needed. They should get what they need inside the tool that they're accustomed to. So they don't need to
Right.
switch the fuckers.
Agreed.
They need to do all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm talking as an email marketer. Like, why should I ever have to go to Bouncer? Let the platform do it for me.
We're ambassadors, and we're really trying to spread that kind of news and get ESPs, get Martech SaaSes to just get connected with our API or API of our competitors, so that the ordinary marketer, ordinary human being doesn't have to know about email verification, doesn't have to care about that at all. But it's if we probably would not sustain if we would just stick to this concept. So we needed to build the easy to use, as easy as possible application, so that we don't steal too much time and energy of marketers, because they should never get into our system at all in the first place. But I think it's a matter of priorities. So. And it depends if it comes to ESPs. So there are some local, pretty solid ESPs that they've got like a majority of the market in a particular country, right? We have really cool friends from South Africa. They basically nailed the whole market of South Africa, and they don't need email verification because they do have really good historical valid data, because they're sending like tens of millions of emails, so they do know which bounce and whatnot, so they can protect their customers, and they can kind of keep the historical data up to date. It's a matter of how you do it, anyways. But they can protect their infrastructure and reputation of their customers pretty easily. But when they want to go into new markets that they don't have a full coverage, then essentially they really see the value, they really see the need of incorporating email verification into their systems. So that's one situation when you've got like a really pretty good market coverage, and your ESP probably you don't need to. But when you're rolling out to new markets, probably that's the time when you're going to look into that. But of course, there are some situations when a business model of the ESP probably is not fully aligned. But this is becoming more and more rare situation when the business model prevents them to incorporate some kind of measurements to protect the reputation. The landscape is growing and it's changing. We've got pretty solid MarTech SaaSes that are our customers that we managed to convince that, hey, yeah, we'll just give it, whether for free or upsell that kind of technology to your customers, but get your reputation protected, get their reputation protected, and everyone's going to be super happy. And we've got amazing customers that are connected with our API. And this is awesome. We do have some customers, some partners as ESPs that just recommend us because they, it's a matter of priorities. They do acknowledge that their customers should have the possibility and want it for them to have it as easy as possible. So they asked us to incorporate like integrations, super simple native integrations with their solutions, or they integrated with our solution. Usually in that kind of situation is when we integrate it, so that user can have as less friction as possible, but still they need to come to us because the ESP needs to focus on some bigger things, more important aspects that are delivering some additional value to their customers. So it's usually a matter of priorities. But I truly hope that someday no marketer will have to know about Bouncer at all, even though we love people and we love to have conversations with other human beings. But let's be honest, it's a waste of your time when you need to go to Bouncer.
Right, for sure. All right, we're wrapping up. All right, so what are your proudest email achievements? I mean, obviously you built Bouncer. That's got to be up there.
And I'd say that, and it's really recent achievement. Actually, last month we verified 2 billionth email address, and it's been huge for us. Especially when you consider. Well, I don't remember how many email addresses there are. Globally, there have been some numbers showing it's like
Estimates.
5 billion. And we verified 2 billions. Of course, some of them, were the same email addresses. We don't know because we don't store historical data, right? But but that's been a huge achievement. I'm like super proud of what team did.
All right, awesome. All right, we're at the end. So you have the floor. You can give a commercial if you want, but.
Well, I already told you that I suck at this point.
Guys, Bouncer is a verification tool. You have a list, you upload it, and it gives you back who's good, who's maybe iffy, and who you definitely should not send to.
Thank you, Hilo, and thank you, Chris. Probably I should say that we're one of the few that are truly European ones. So if we've got anyone who's from Europe and wants a European solution, we're here. We're going to be happy to serve you. But if it comes to final thoughts, especially for the for the period of time that we are right now, right? So cyber deals happening right now, then there's going to be a holiday season. Of course, it's a busy time for all of us. So I think it's even more important to remember that we need to, as human beings, we just need to, love and respect each other. And I do know that we do have some goals. We do want to take this is the most important time during the whole calendar year, especially if it comes to marketing, email marketing. But let's do it. Let's do it respectfully towards each other. Let's show the respect to each other. Let's bring pretty cool value over this period of time to each other. And if we will do that, if we're going to be mindful, I think that deliverability will be intact, and we're going to get our messages delivered, and people will get the value that we've got to offer.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hill.
Really appreciate your time.
It's been great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. I'm glad you can make it. All right. So that's our show for today. I'm glad, you guys could hear it. Thanks, Chris, for popping in. And that's the end of our broadcast.